everybody, we're back for another video, and I have a really cool video I think planned for you guys in this one. Matthew Stafford versus Jim Schwartz, part number 3, coming up this weekend. So let's get right into the video. Yes, that is right. Matthew Stafford versus Jim Schwartz, part 3 will be taking place this Sunday in Philadelphia at 1 o'clock, okay? And I'm super excited to see this game. Like I said, round 3, part 3, whatever you want to call it. This is the third time they will be playing against each other. Now, if you guys, most of you guys probably know this. If you don't, that's fine. But Jim Schwartz used to be the Detroit Lions head coach, okay? And back in 2011 is really when he brought them that first playoff appearance since we brought Jim Caldwell in. And when we brought him in, we let him go after 2013. But when we brought him in 2011, that was our first playoff appearance since the 1990s, which was huge. It was huge for the Detroit Lions, and you can imagine over a decade of not making the playoffs to making the playoffs, absolutely huge. Now, he also drafted Matthew Stafford with the first pick in the draft, so there's a lot of good relationships going on right there. This will be the third time these two guys have met up in a matchup, okay? The first matchup took place back in 2014 when he went to the Buffalo Bills and he played against Matthew Stafford and the Detroit Lions. Now, the Buffalo Bills actually took this one 17-14, and if you guys remember, there's a lot of missed field goals. I think this was like back in that time where we could not find a field goal kicker. Every single kicker we brought out missed. Like, they were terrible. And I think we were actually in field goal range, but we missed the kick. At the end of the game. Either way, we lost this game 17-14, and that was the first matchup. But Matthew Stafford wasn't going to be done right there. No, he was not. Back in 2016, 2 years later, he decided to take him on again. Well, he didn't decide. That's just how the schedule played out. But he played Jim Schwartz once again. But in this game, the Detroit Lions took home the revenge in a 24-23 win over the Philadelphia Eagles. If you guys remember this one was awesome. The Lions scored, I believe, 21 points in the first half. They didn't score again until the final quarter when they had to pass over to Golden Tate, and they got in field goal range and they made the field goal. And then Darius big play Slay come up with the interception on Nelson Aguilar. So if you guys remember that was an awesome game. 2 really good games. So right now it is split 1-1 apiece. And these guys are awesome. Okay, these guys, at least for me, are like kind of my earliest memories of Detroit. You know, bringing Stafford in and the Jim Schwartz area was like really my first time I can remember really well. Because I know I watched Lions before that, but it was kind of hard to really remember what was going on then. But once Jim Schwartz came in, that's when I really could start understanding everything. And Jim Schwartz is a guy I definitely respect, and I know Matthew Stafford does as well. They talked a lot. This should be an amazing matchup. I have a lot of respect for Jim Schwartz taking us to our first playoff appearance in over a decade. He tried really hard. I feel like he was always motivated and he wanted to win. I just feel like he wasn't the best head coach. You know, he wasn't suited to be a head coach. I would have never thought a defense coordinator, but yes, he's a defensive coordinator and he's really, really good at what he does. But with the Lions, he wasn't the best head coach, but I felt like he always tried. And again, we have to give him credit because he did take us to the playoffs. And, you know, the best memories I have is every time we win, I felt like you see him just go, and he would just like punch his fist in the air, and that's like was the celebration. You saw so many comebacks. 2011 was wild. The Raiders game was off the charts wild. That kind of win. That kind of stuff was common back with Jim Schwartz, okay? The comebacks, the Matthew Stafford shotgun, the Matthew Stafford 5,000 passing yard season, if you guys remember 2011 as well. 41 passing touchdowns and 5,000 passing yards. In 2012, he had nearly 5,000 passing yards again with 4,967. So he basically had 5,000 passing yards again. Okay, this was a crazy cool duo, okay? And he had Calvin Johnson. This was when we just chucked a lot of things up. Our defense wasn't the best, but we had a great defensive line at times. And it was all about the comebacks with Matthew Stafford and putting up big numbers. But these guys will be facing off in part number 3 or round 3. And they have a lot of respect for each other. Jim Schwartz says that it is a very different scheme the Detroit Lions are now running. You know, you have Matt Patricia, who is a defensive coordinator, as our head coach. You also have Darrell Bevell, who is a run-first type of guy from Seattle, the Minnesota Vikings, stuff like that. And it's completely different from what it was back when Jim Schwartz is here. But he said Matthew Stafford is still very, very dangerous. He's super accurate, and he moves the ball around to different wide receivers very well. And that's very true. Matthew Stafford does get the mix in. Matthew Stafford's very accurate, you know, and he is very dangerous. Even though our offense is less shotgun, it's more of a variety, but I think they do a lot of dangerous things. You guys will see that we are playing a lot more aggressively, offensively. You can see a lot of bombs last week against the Chargers. But Matthew Stafford had some nice things to say as well, saying that he respects Jim Schwartz and that he always has his guys playing hard, they're playing aggressive, and they also have one of the best defensive lines in football, which we know with guys like Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox. Okay, that defensive line has been good for the Philadelphia Eagles for a while. But now these two guys will face off in round number 3, and I'm super excited to see this, okay? There's going to be some weird advantages here, right? Jim Schwartz is going to have the advantage having played with Matthew Stafford, but it is a new offense, so, you know, just certain weird advantages, probably tendencies. And then on the other side, I think Matthew Stafford may have the advantage a little bit on Jim Schwartz being that defense coordinator. I'm sure he runs very similar stuff to when he was with the Detroit Lions now as just specifically a defense coordinator. So the battle is going to be real. It should be super awesome. Obviously, I hope Matthew Stafford takes the dub here, but I do respect what Jim Schwartz did for the Detroit Lions. If you don't, his record wasn't great. I believe he was 29 and 57 or 51 with the Detroit Lions, which wasn't great at all, but I do respect him taking to the playoffs, and he just seemed to care, and that's what I really liked about him. So Part 3 will be taking place again Sunday at 1 o'clock. Should be very exciting. We will be live for that game, obviously. But until then, thank you for watching, and I'm out.